Want to make an announcement? The piss is hot. The piss is hot. Flaming hot. Actually, we're not sure because it can't be tested, but that's because the Marine Corps decided from Camp Pendleton to send some of their great urine for tests that we do on a random basis to a private citizen, which was found out online on social media. We're going to talk a lot about this because there's a lot of nuance and a lot of questions. So it looks like 5th Battalion 11th Marines sent this after a random urine analysis, which is required for everybody on at least an annual basis, and you could be hit even earlier, by the way. But what this looks like is that this was erroneously sent to somebody that is a private citizen, where essentially it was supposed to end up with the Navy Marine Corps lab testing site that is over in Great Lakes, Illinois, coincidentally right next to Navy boot camp. Now, what's even more interesting is that how this was discovered was essentially through a tweet which talks about it, where they say this: "Told you I wasn't kidding. What the F, man? LMAO. The Marine Corps sent me a box full of piss. Not even effing kidding." It should be noted that the Marine Corps, or I should say the command here at Camp Pendleton over in California, was aware of this misguided package and how it did not end up at the Navy Drug Screening Center. Now, from this, they do say that the outside of the box was shipped and labeled to go to this civilian, but the internal boxes, from what they're describing, looks like these were labeled to actually go to the Navy Drug Center. So where does this mix-up happen? It looks like Major Mott over at 1st Marine Division at Camp Pendleton has actually responded to some of the inquiries about this. There is no other samples that have been misguided or lost in the mail or ended up anywhere else. Every other type of sample has made its way over to Great Lakes. Now, it does look like the Marine Corps did recover these packages, and that is a feat here in 2021. I don't know who wants this piss, but I'm going to tell you probably not the Marine Corps right now, because I'll tell you a little bit of that insight after this. Now, it does look like Major Mott has also commented on some of these people that were tested, that their samples were sent to the civilian, and they've said essentially that they would be subject to further testing, possibly, or random urinalysis after this. And I do wonder how that's going to turn out. So it does look like the command is doing their own investigation of this story to find out what's happening, because, you know, there is a lot of factors that do come into play here, and they do say that this post office was located on the base. And Marine Times covers this even more in depth, kind of talking about the background story that I anecdotally want to add to this as well. While we're talking about 1st Marine Division in Camp Pendleton, this is talking about 2nd Marine Division over in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where they were talking about they were having an LSD issue back in December of 2020. It should be noted, before all these issues that they saw over at 2nd Marine Division, LSD was a drug that was not able to be tested on the regular test that was sent out. It had to be enforced by legal means and was not able to be randomly sampled like we do when we pop for the urinalysis list, and we're required to piss for a country, which I've somehow managed to do like 4 times this year. It does look like there has been about 4,000 cases since 2020 where this has become a real thing, where they've had cases of LSD going around. But what's interesting about this is that this was actually taken off of the urinalysis that was required. As they found out in 2006, they tested so many different samples and they only had 4 positives pop. These testing sites do cost money. The contracts are expensive, and the drugs that they test for do cost more the more samples you're having to test as well. So at what scale would that actually occur is a good question. Looking at this, we can only beg to ask the question: is there going to be a retest on everybody that did have their sample taken? Maybe someone's going to get lucky, and if they were going to be hot, this would have deterred them and allowed them to be clean and freaked them out. There are people in the military that do end up partaking in these events, even though we do have these random urinalysis, but it is meant to deter these types of action. And like I said before, I don't think the Marine Corps really wants this urine anyway, because if you looked at it from a legal standpoint, it left the hands of the Marine Corps and this post office, and the chain of custody has been broken by being in the hands of the civilian, which would really not hold up any court case or non-judicial punishment or anything like that. So realistically, this urine is in void right now because it can't be trusted, essentially. These urinalyses are meant to be tested by a third-party lab, which is contracted out. Obviously not conducted by somebody within the military, because you could see corruption and people that are trying to get out of this maybe pay somebody else, where they're looking to really disconnect the samples from the people that are testing them. So this makes sense. Now, They did say that they put the sample through the post office. You need to check out the employees at that post office. I can only imagine, what if someone's prior Marine? What if somebody is, buddy with the post office person? Somebody could have easily put a different, annotation of where this was supposed to go, but it draws a lot more questions, because in order for this transaction to occur, is there money exchange that's happened? Is there some kind of contract, where this is somehow paid for with government funds from an automatic account of some kind? That would be very interesting to see how this would be mixed up and been given or delivered to this other person entirely, because the label is entirely different. This isn't like this just got lost in the mail. It's not like this just got lost and ended up at someone's house. This is like actually addressed to somebody else. So maybe look into the guy that actually received it. They've redacted his name from this tweet as well. We've seen people, even Marines, deal with the smuggling of personnel across from Mexico over into the United States. So they could be into some big stuff like this too. Sounds like a big collaboration of people and stars aligning, but I'm not really sure if that's something that you'd want to rule out in something so suspicious like this. And I did mention to you guys chain of custody, because this is important. It does look like there was no break in the chain of custody per what the Marine Corps has said. If you guys don't know, there are people that have been pissing hot for these issues in the past, but whenever they look back at these cases, they obviously have to ensure that every measure is met as far as the standard operating procedures that go with the urinalysis program, and that is a lot of steps. And if you have a program coordinator, which maybe does or does not know their job, that could vary on how verifiable those samples are, ensuring that they were collected appropriately, labeled, and chain of custody was maintained. If that chain of custody was broken or improperly documented, can you actually trust those documents or verify? Which there have been people that have been let off of court-martial cases and have been retained in the military, essentially, because there was no proof, and the proof that was there, or the sample, was not valid. So that's why this is so important, and why the urine really can't be used. My recommendation for all of this is to tell the Marines, learn how to write, learn how to read. Don't use crayons. It's pretty sloppy. I'm kidding. But no, for real. It doesn't sound like this happens very often. I've never heard of this previously. With these new drug tests, obviously, as you've seen with them adding this LSD, and if you guys don't remember, back in the day, there was spice added to these drug tests after the fact, when it was already blown up and so many Marines and sailors were kicked out. How do you guys feel about how the tests are conducted, as some are placed on this list of tests for, some are not at certain points, and also the cost of what it takes to test for all these drugs, which we obviously do not know that number, but I would love to know how much we pay to test people's urine every single day. But I will pass the question on to you guys. What do you guys think about this story overall? Have you had any crazy stories with people that have been pop positive? And definitely, please leave those down in the comments below. But if you guys do like what we do over here, we do have a Patreon link down below where you can help support the channel over here. And we also do have a membership for this YouTube channel here, where both those can offer you some special perks and help the channel grow. We appreciate it. But if you guys do have questions about this or anything else, you can always hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, or down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.